Man. I don't know who's going to hear this, if anyone will ever hear this, but I feel like I need to get the story down just for maybe my daughter will come along, or maybe some of my family will come along and find this video, and they'll be able to kind of piece together what has happened here. And of course, I'm sure the same thing could be happening where they are as well, but to fill you guys in on what's been going on, it all started about a month ago. It seemed innocent enough. The power went out. And, you know, I had just stocked up on gasoline right before that because, for whatever reason, gas prices were a little bit lower. So I filled up all my 5-gallon gas cans, and my generators were ready to go. So it wasn't any real big deal the first couple of days. We just thought maybe it was some sort of a, you know, possibly a line down or something like that. But then we started getting reports that it was much wider spread than just our suburb neighborhood. And I live here in a subdivision that's kind of out on the outskirts, on the edges of the outskirts of the country, you know, far enough away from a big city. But anyway, we were basically all cut off. And as people started getting more and more intel coming in from their relatives and such, saying that, you know, in the next state over, that they didn't have power either. And so we realized that this must be either, you know, major regional areas have gone out, like multiple states, or possibly the whole United States. So the panic started setting in relatively quickly. And wouldn't you know it, on day 3, the cell phones completely went offline. The cell phone service network, you could still turn your cell phone on and, you know, do things with it, but as long as you had a way to charge it up, but the cell phone networks went down. So no one could call out anymore because most people have gotten rid of their landlines. No one in my neighborhood even had a landline. So we asked around. You know, we're not really a tight-knit community here. Most people kind of keep to themselves, and that's been problematic, but we'll get to that here in a little while. I just wanted to tell you guys, for anyone that's still out there surviving, basically trust no one, not even your neighbors, people that you thought were your friends and stuff. And that would be to your best advantage if you want to live, because if you have anything, they will try to take it from you eventually, you know. So we'll get there in a minute. But so on day 4 and 5, people started really panicking. Several people fled the neighborhood and just left. I saw them loading up their cars and their trucks and stuff, and I don't know where they went. But I would say, you know, 10 to 20% of my neighborhood just vacated the premises. I have no idea. Maybe they went to their bug out shelters. No one really knows. So we started having neighborhood watch meetings because we knew that, you know, as the system had went offline, and in fact, speaking of that, no more internet either. After day 4 or 5, the internet ceased to exist. At least our access to the internet ceased to exist. So everything has gone down. Some people still have natural gas, and obviously people that have big propane tanks, they still have a way to heat and to cook and things like that. But most people are just lost. They don't know what to do. They've eaten up all of their supplies. They've drank up all their water, because in the beginning, you know, let's say the first week or so, everyone, all you could hear all around me was generators running nonstop 24 hours a day. And I'm sure that everyone fell into that, you know, that same old routine that we'd experienced over and over and over again. Yeah, the power goes out, but usually in a couple of days, maybe a week at longest, it comes back on. But this time it didn't come back on. And there was no notifications or indications from any government officials or sheriffs or anything. It's just like everything disappeared. So no one can really explain what happened. There's a lot of speculation. People are saying it's cyber attacks. We were poking the bear in Russia and, you know, fighting a proxy war in Russia. It could have been an EMP. The Chinese have EMPs, hypersonic missiles. Who knows? It could have been as something as innocent as a solar flare and had, you know, nothing to do with any people. But no one really knows what happened. But the power is completely offline. A lot of people said cyber attacks, terrorists coming in through the southern border. It could have been any of those things, but apparently, and I don't know if this is worldwide, but nationwide, there is definitely a massive disruption of normalcy. No more power. And that has freaked a lot of people out. They don't know how to handle themselves. They're going out in an emotional state, being super panicked and, knocking door to door, begging for supplies, begging for whatever you'll give them. And it's been very difficult turning those kinds of people away. But one of the things that I didn't really foresee is that our neighborhood, it's kind of like it's a dead-end neighborhood, and I'm kind of back near the dead end, which kind of puts me at a little bit of a disadvantage because I feel sort of trapped in. But basically what's going on is the neighborhood is kind of divided up into two different factions. Out here at the front side of the neighborhood, there's a guy named Jim. And personally, I don't really like Jim. I've had some run-ins with him in the past, and he just seems to be kind of an arrogant, cocky prick. The kind of person you don't want to ever cross paths with, even before the SHTF happens, but especially after SHTF, because apparently a lot of people are following him. About half the neighborhood, it looks like, of the ones that are remaining. And the other half, I guess in a weird way, I have sort of become the de facto leader of this side of the addition. And I didn't mean for that to happen, but essentially what happened early on was I started sharing some of my water. I was telling you how everyone was running their generators 24/7. Well, eventually they ran out of fuel to keep those generators going. But my wife and I, we didn't do that. We only ran our generators enough to charge up a battery so we could have some lights and also to pump water out of our well, the most important thing. So I've been filling up my 275-gallon IBC tote in the daytime with my generator. And unfortunately, I'm the only one in my neighborhood that had the foresight to have the plug, the adapter that it was going to take to run my well pump directly off my generator. No one else had that. They acted like it was black magic or something when I did it. And I was like, hey, I've got this and I can fill up your water jugs. At first, that was fine when I was just filling a couple of neighbors. They would come over with big 5-gallon jugs and we would fill them up, and I wasn't even really charging them anything for it. I'd just say, hey, look out for me in the future, that sort of deal, trying to make friends with these people. Well, it slipped out to the rest of the neighborhood that I had a way to pump water down here. And I don't know who told, tails out of school, but somebody told, and now the rest of the neighborhood knows. So for the past 2 weeks, like I said, it's been a month since whatever the event was that took down the power grid and the cell phone towers and the internet. I mean, it's pretty much 1800s again. So again, I have water. Now that makes me a target because most of these people haven't prepared and they don't even have enough water to get through the day, much less the month. So we've been doing some bartering. A few people were holding out on fuel. And see, I'm running low on fuel now as well. It's been a month and I've been slowly going through my fuel, and the power's off. So you can't go down to the gas station and get more fuel. It's not that simple. And so we're running on fumes around here. I've got enough to probably pump the 275-gallon tank up one more time, hopefully all the way full. And then I'm out of fuel. I've already been draining my fuel tanks and my vehicles and stuff, and I'm glad that I had some different siphoning methods to get that fuel out of there, because I knew my Suburban, it holds like 40 gallons of gas. So, I mean, we've gone through the majority of that as well. I've got just enough left in there that if I had to bug out and get over to my land and just live on my raw land, live off the land, then I'd be able to do that, but it'd be a one-way trip because that means we've lost the neighborhood. So anyway, yeah, I've been running on very little sleep. We're already rationing our food and our water, pretty heavily because who knows when the power is going to come back on. Again, no one else is running their generator now because they used all their gas up the first week of the power outage. So now when I turn my generator on, that makes a lot of noise, and people from all around can hear that because no one else is running them. So that also makes me a target. So by default, just because I was more prepared than anyone else in the neighborhood, I have become the de facto leader of this group down here on my end of the neighborhood. And that would be all fine and good, except for Jim and his part of the neighborhood have been encroaching on our area and and successfully stealing our water. They know it's down here. They know I have a tank down here that I'm pumping full about every 4 or 5 days because I'm doling it out so much to my neighbors around here that weren't prepared. So basically my well and my fuel is providing the entire neighborhood with water. And that's not going to work for very long, especially as we're running on fumes. So I've taken to trading water for fuel. If people want to come down and fill up a 5-gallon jug, that's fine, but they have to have 1 gallon of fuel to contribute to trade for that water. I can't just give it away for free, or again, we'll all die of thirst, and that's not my plan. So I didn't anticipate so many people in my neighborhood being caught with their pants down like this. And the problem is when people get into a mindset of panic, then they start looking around for help. And they will, they will take that help from the worst kinds of people, like Jim down there. I mean, this guy, they're violent. Some bad stuff has happened right on the edge of where we would call the border, I guess, where that side's Jim's side and this side's my side. Right on that edge, there was an elderly couple there that they were older, so they'd been through, I don't know if they were old enough to live through the Great Depression, but they had been through some hard times in the past, and so they had a whole bunch of canned foods and some water and some different things. I wouldn't call them preppers. They were just, old school people that grew up in harder times and knew to always put back some stuff. So they had some stuff put back, and they were trying to be friendly to Jim and his people down there, and they let too much out. They let too much be known, and the next thing you know, they came up dead. We all assume that Jim and his people went in there and cleaned them out because there wasn't anything left in their house. Everything was gone. They were murdered in cold blood. And, we're talking about 1 month without power. This kind of stuff is going on. And so it hasn't been easy to adjust to this new really like a prison type mentality where, it's the same old thing in a way. It's the haves and the have-nots, but the haves are not necessarily, society's upper crust or the elites. They're just the people that had the forethought to go ahead and stock up and have, extra ammo and extra guns and extra, all the things you need to survive an SHTF event. And that could just be something as simple as like, provisions for earthquake or tornado or whatever natural disasters you get in your area. But, most of these people didn't even have a week's worth of supplies. So again, we're in real trouble. I see a lot of these people that are currently, on the good side, on the good side of the line here. They're getting pulled over to Jim's side because Jim is going out and, assumably robbing people of their supplies. And they know I have supplies down here. So we've got a very thin line that for as of right now, it's holding. We've got a couple of trucks parked down there blockading Jim and his group out. But the problem is we're also blocked in. The neighborhood back behind us here are somewhat friendly to us, but again, I don't trust anyone. The way things have devolved in our society so quickly, people murdering each other and stuff. And I've heard, I haven't seen this myself, but I've heard rumors going all around that there's a group of cannibals out there going around and doing all kinds of ungodly things and killing and eating human flesh because that's how desperate they are. Or maybe that was their plan all along. It's hard to tell. So whoever sees this, I hope this gives you a little insight on what's going on here in the neighborhood, if there's anyone left. I would imagine if you're viewing this, I'm long gone at this point, but hopefully I can hold down the fort for as long as possible And speaking of that, it's time for me to get out here and do a patrol, go check on my water, make sure Jim and his gang are not down here trying to siphon it out or steal my supplies, so that, you know, we can keep on going, because that's the name of the game. We didn't ask for war, but it looks like, whether we like it or not, that's what we're going to get. So I'll try to make updates in the future when this situation unfolds and I learn more about what's going on. Maybe we can start doing some scouting missions and probing around and seeing if we can find a source of gasoline and, you know, a source of fresh water where it all doesn't have to come out of my well via my generator and my gasoline. So, but for right now, that's a hell of an advantage to have that as a bartering item. But it's also, it makes me a target because people know about it. So my best advice to you is, if you have something, don't let anyone know about it, because they're going to want to take it. All right, I'm going to get back out here and get to work. Wish you guys all the best of luck. I hope you're doing better than we are.